The notion is our year one success here, execution mode, is to create actual infrastructure in the world. And then while we call it infrastructure very deliberately, and we saw this unfortunately last week with our friends at Anthropic. So as I noted there on LinkedIn, I did a short video where I explained the challenge of trying to create governance from the top down. In this case, it's a CEO who has a very strong ethical standard around how his technology is being utilized. The problem and challenge that he has is basically him and the way he thinks, the way he looks at the world. It's basically, it's a principle, it's a paragraph, it is a unilateral statement of where he stands. The issue there, of course, is that in this case, the US government could put enormous pressure on him politically and economically to change his stance. And we've seen that over and over in other places. When I was at Google, we had the don't be evil standard that quietly went away one day. Nobody talked about it. It just simply evaporated. OpenAI has gone through numerous evolutions, if you want to call it that, to get away from their original being safe around building for nonprofit purposes mode. Anthropic is facing the same problem. So we have to think of governance not something you put at the top at the very end, has to be embedded at the core, has to go along for the ride in every step of creating and launching a product. Starts at the policy level, but also then in the internal practices, the business model, protocols and standards, all of the elements that make it what it is something that, again, under the Zuckerberg principle, you bolt it to the side of Meta, that thing ain't changing, at least without enormous effort, enormous time, and also the transparency around it is something that people will be able to recognize, understand, and hopefully respond to. So that's the difference between governance as policy and governance as actually embedded into the DNA of an entity. So here's one way to think about it. I worked at Google, as I said. I've known Vint Cerf for many years. He taught me to think about the world as a series of layers. This is my fumbling attempt to sort of treat this a bit like the IP layer in the internet protocol in the internet. Something that sits in the middle. It binds together all the different kinds of devices, interfaces, content at the top, as well as the different kinds of organizations, networks, and infrastructures at the bottom. It's intended to be lightweight enough to apply in these different contexts, but effective enough that it actually can be abiding. So that's at least the intention of treating it this way.